And hello, welcome to our Gospel Trail virtual VBS. Today we're talking about camp life or hiking on the Gospel Trail. The Gospel Trail is an actual location that is in Israel. It starts in Nazareth, and so my assistant and I are wearing these Nazareth bandanas that's left over from a previous year's vacation Bible school. The trail starts in Nazareth, which is where Jesus grew up. And it goes through Cana, where he performed the miracle at the wedding of turning water into wine. It goes past the Mount of Beatitudes, past Mount Tabor, that they believe is the site of the Transfiguration. It goes to Magdala. We know Jesus met Mary Magdalene there at Magdala, and we know he preached at the synagogue there. It goes to Bethsaida and to Capernaum and to the Sea of Galilee itself. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what it would be like to walk that trail. You can actually hike it. If you ever get a chance to go to Israel, you can actually hike it. The trail's about 60 kilometers long. And if you're going to go on a trail, you need to have the right kind of equipment to make sure that you stay safe. So the first thing I've got up here on the table is you got to have a good pair of hiking boots or shoes that are good for hiking up and down a trail. So I borrowed my husband's military boots for that purpose. You also need to know which direction you're going in, and for that you might need a compass. So I've got my husband's military compass here. I won't completely undo it because I'm not sure I could put it all back together right. But we also have, and this will be part of our take-home kits for those of you who are in the local area. If at any point during this VBS or the week afterward you want to come by the church to pick up take-home supplies, we're going to make that available to you. And for kids, the supply kit will include some of these whistles. I chose pink. What you chose red. It's got a little compass on the front of it that actually works. But if you're going to be hiking on a trail, you not only need to have a compass to show you the way, but you need to be able to summon help if need be, or to maybe scare off a wild animal. So this one actually blows. And it's also a keychain. So that's some of the equipment you would need. And hand me that water bottle there for a minute.
You also need water.
Yeah, you need lots of water. Water could come in a lot of different forms. You could have a canteen. Soldiers... Don't forget food. Yes, you're going to need food. We're going to get to that one. But you're definitely going to need water when you're hiking on a trail. Other types of drinks, sports energy drinks, whatnot, may help you for a while, but nothing cures a thirst like water does. And so sometimes people will use canteens, or they'll have things called camelbacks. If they're in the military, they know what a camelback is, where they carry the water on their back and they can just drink it from a hose. When I went to Israel, both times that I went, in 2015 and 2018, I had a backpack. And my backpack, as a matter of fact, the backpack is sitting there. Jennifer, if you want to hand that to me, because I forgot to put that up here. She's already been on camera, so she's not shy about being on camera again. This is a backpack that I carried to Israel, and it's got a couple of pockets here on the side that I could put my water bottle in. And anywhere we went in Israel, you could replenish your water at water fountains. They had some of the best water. Some countries you go to, not a good idea to drink the water, but Israel has some of the highest water quality standards in the world. And so I would carry the water bottle, and as I drank through it, I'd go fill it up again. So if you're going to go on a hike, you're going to need to have water, and you're also going to need food. And the other thing we're going to hold up here, and Josh is going to help me here, these are the signs. That's a sign, of course, that would let you know that this is a place that you can camp. Now you can set that one down. And this is the hiking symbol. You'll see that all over the place where people know how to hike. Okay? And this one's a place that lets you know this is a place that you can put your tent. Okay? And here's one, we got to hold it right side up, that's upside down. There we go. Where you can stop and picnic and eat. Here's another eating one. This one lets you know that there's a place where they actually can have prepared foods for you. And here's one that shows places where you're allowed to fish. And we know that fishing was a big part of life in Jesus' day. The Sea of Galilee, you can put that one down now, is a freshwater lake. And so there's freshwater fish in there. And we know that at least 4 of Jesus' disciples, Peter and Andrew, James and John, were fishermen. So I've just showed you some of the signs and guides that people would use. If they were marching on a trail, they would have the signs. In fact, our VBS t-shirts, which mine's partially obscured by the binoculars, because you also need to be able to see at great distances. This is an actual photograph that we had screen printed onto the t-shirt that shows the gospel trail. This particular logo marker is all over the place in Israel where the gospel trail is at, and they'll stack 2 to 3 stones upon each other. And sometimes if the trail is about to make a turn, they'll have a big yellow anchor-like looking arrow pointing in this direction or this direction, whichever way the trail is going to move. Why do you need to know the trail marker signs if you're going to be going on a journey? So you don't get lost, so that you stay on the right path. I got this idea from listening to Mr. Barker, who did our science demonstration a few weeks ago that'll appear on this VBS. In a lot of ways, our Bibles are God's signpost for us, our trail markers on how we're supposed to live our lives. We can look at the stories that are in the Bible about the different people, the Ruths, the Esthers, the King Davids, the Joshuas, the Daniels, all the different people of the Bible, and see how they sometimes didn't know what to do. There were times when they were worried or afraid, or they had made a wrong decision and had done something that they were sorry for, and how they turned to God to get back on track. So just like our trail markers will help us get back on track if we get off the trail, then using God's Word to help us know what it is we need to do with our lives helps us get back on track with our life. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome to Gospel Trail VBS. This segment is called Family Recess. It's only going to be one session. I'm just going to give you a lot of material. Some of you have access to Facebook. We're going to have this particular piece of paper that I've typed out with a lot of the instructions made available on our church's Facebook page, and from there I'll be able to share it to a lot of social media sites. But some of you are only able to watch from YouTube, and so we're not going to be able to link to YouTube. What I'm going to do is describe for you a lot of different things that you can do as a family unit. Because see, this VBS is virtual. We started doing that last year thanks to the COVID conditions, and we decided to do a virtual VBS this year because it reached a whole lot more people doing it virtually than if we had had it in person at our church last year. Many of you are scattered across the globe, literally, because of your affiliation with the military. But this VBS can be used as a vacation Bible school. It can also be used for a homeschooling environment or just family devotional time. A lot of people would love to be able to teach their children about God, but they need some help getting started, because teaching people how to have family devotionals at home is regrettably something that the church has kind of neglected over the years to give people the skills. So I'm going to give you several suggestions here of things that you can do. One of them came about this past week. I have a friend who is an artist. She's the one who took the picture and gave us permission to use it for our Gospel Trail t-shirts, and she sent me some artwork. So she sent me a Facebook link from someone else where they had taken bricks and had painted them, and that spawned an idea of your VBS here or your family enrichment time is called Gospel Trail. one of the things that you could choose to do would be to make it a point to go on a nature hike at a park, wherever, maybe there's a walking trail near your home, and go on a hike as a family and talk about God's creation, how the plants are in bloom because it's summertime, how some trees shed their leaves in the fall but others stay green year-round, how the different animals are out and about, whether it's a squirrel or a bird or even a fly, mosquito, something like that. And you're talking about how God made all different things, all good. He said they were good. I might have to ask him one day what's good about the mosquito. But he said everything was good and everything has a purpose. So you could take a hike that way. But maybe you live in an area where there aren't hiking trails available, or it might not necessarily be safe. Well, you know what you could do? You could make your own gospel trail in your yard by either going to one of those local home improvement stores and getting some of those paving stones, or getting some bricks and getting some paint and painting either the names of the towns that we're going to go to in this VBS, Nazareth and Magdala and Mount of Beatitudes and Capernaum and the Sea of Galilee, or let your kids paint the pictures in their own way, however good or poor an artist they may be, and set up your own family hiking trail in your backyard. Another thing that you could do is, if you have a bread making machine, you can bake bread. We are going to have another segment in this VBS. A lady who's a volunteer here at our church, who is an actual professional baker, is going to show us how to make bread. And if you want to follow the ingredients that she's going to give you, you can make some bread yourself as just a family teaching activity, or even just bake a cake and use the colors that would be used for spreading the gospel. Sometimes it's a little wrist bracelet that just has black to represent the sin, so you could use a dark chocolate, white for the purity of God, green for growing in your faith in Christ, and you could bake a Jesus cake and sit down there as a family and share the cake and enjoy talking about why these colors represent the fact that we have sin, that Jesus' blood, so you use like a cherry or strawberry maybe mix in your cake. Jesus' blood covers our sin, and now we're pure and clean in his sight, and now it's our responsibility to grow in the faith. Another thing that you can do is you can pitch a tent. Doesn't matter whether you've got maybe a child's indoor tent or an outdoor tent, or for that matter, some furniture with a sheet or blanket tossed over it, like many of you may have done on rainy days as a child, and sit around the tent and talk about camping now as opposed to what we learned in the Roman soldier camp out, camping in their day and time. Compare and contrast a little bit. The Roman soldiers, we talked about the fact that you wanted to be in the center of the tent and not on either of the edges. Why? So that the water wouldn't run in on you when it rained, and so that if you're in the middle, you've got the body heat of your fellow soldiers on either side. Well, in modern campouts, people might have the ability to elevate their tent up off the ground a little bit, or maybe they have something they can put on the top of their cars, or maybe it's even a case of they've got a camper. Modern people can use insect repellent. Roman soldiers and people camping out in Jesus' day didn't have that. Compare and contrast what it would be like. For those of you who are in the military, you might want to talk about what life was like during a time that you were deployed. And it doesn't matter which branch of the service you were in. Army, certainly there was a lot of camping out. Marines would do a lot of camping out. But what if you're Coast Guard or Navy or Air Force? You still can talk about what it was like to be a long way from home, to not have all the normal conveniences that you have when you're at home, and how, if you're a soldier and you're in the military for many, many years and you're constantly out in the field, how you would learn to live without all those conveniences. It can be a great conversation, time of sharing, maybe share some of your own experiences while you were serving in the military. Another thing you can do, and this one has several variations, you can have a family biblical dinner where everything that's going to be on the table is something that would have been available in Jesus' day. Something like pita bread. They used a lot of flatbread. Hummus. Raw vegetables and fruit. Maybe even fish, and I don't care whether it's regular fish or fish sticks or for that matter goldfish crackers, and sit around and talk about the kinds of food that Jesus would have eaten, that his disciples and he would have eaten, because they're moving around from town to town and village to village, and so they're having to camp out a lot. Another variation of that would be to have a biblical dinner like a wedding feast. This would be a good one to do. Maybe if you've done that cake, you can have a family celebration where you're sitting down together, you're eating the foods, and maybe mom and dad talk about what their wedding was like and share some of the stories connected to their wedding day and the reception and the guests with your children, regardless of what age they are. You have a young child and the child has toys, dolls, maybe put on a reenactment of a wedding feast and use that to talk about one day when Jesus calls us to heaven. We're going to be at something the Bible calls the marriage supper of the Lamb. It's a wedding feast. And use that to talk about how when we have communion, we're celebrating the fact that we've given our hearts to Jesus. And so when we take this bread and we drink this cup, that we're looking forward to the day when we're going to be in heaven at the big party with Jesus. You can use something as simple as grape Kool-Aid, grape juice, and a saltine cracker. You don't necessarily have to have the actual communion elements. If you are in this local area and you want actual communion elements, we will give them to you. We have the individually wrapped communion sets that we can use. Maybe if you're far off and your church has those individual communion cups, you can go and ask them to let you have some and explain it and share the idea with other people so that people can start looking for ways to share their faith at home. Another thing you can do, and we made mention of this in our Roman soldier thing, the game hopscotch. A lot of people don't know it, but hopscotch wasn't invented as a children's game. It was actually a PT drill for Roman soldiers. So get out there and get some sidewalk chalk and make a hopscotch board and let everybody in the family play hopscotch together. Ham it up a little bit. Maybe make it where the bigger kids and the grown-ups have to do certain things and the younger kids can just simply hop and go from place to place. Make it a time of fun. Make it a time to bring your family closer to each other and closer to God, because God wants to celebrate every part of your life with you. Thanks for watching.